So here we have the first round versus Lindoso is very well known for playing Boros Monarch. I think they played that deck here. We also encountered them playing in leagues with the same thing yesterday or the day previous to this challenge. So we knew that they were on Boros. Let's see how. Yeah, so we have this first opening hand. We need to ship it because we can't play our spells. If we top the land, it's very good, but we don't want to gamble with this deck. So here we have a land that's a bit on the clunky side, but we can play like Cave of Temptation, Sailor's Barons, and have colors. Then play Prism and hopefully get there. We bottom, I think, a Thoughtcast. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. So we play this. We are playing to cycle this in the end step. Okay, so they are playing, yeah, this, we also saw that this in the match in the previous day. They had like this main and I believe like 2 or 3 Bojuka box main, so they were really prepared for graveyard strategies, I guess. Maybe is part of their plan against Tron, but our deck doesn't really abuse the graveyard yet. So we aren't very worried about this. We are hoping that he doesn't crack it thinking we have an Archeomancer or something. So here we found an ephemerate that does really nothing, so we are going to play the Prism, draw a card and pass. Maybe part of the reason to play Relic of Progenitus in this deck is that more often than not this deck also wins by timing the opponent out. So here we find a land and we play Thoughtcast for 3 mana, which isn't the optimal way of playing it, but we needed to draw cards. So we have a couple of plus for their birds, and we also have a good threat here. So things are looking fine. So he apparently bounces the Progenitus to not bounce their land. We find another land, we play the Atok, and then ball the bird. And pass with Ephemerate up if they have removal, which apparently they do. And we use the Ephemerate since we had to. So this is kind of bad against their deck because they can find a Korsky Fisher and bounce this back. But we have a couple of Ephemerates and no other thing to do, so I prefer to play our stuff and try to rise them. Maybe try to put more artifacts into play and have a very good Atok. So this is a common line. You play the star and then crack it just for damage. Maybe you can find something. In this case, we found a Korsky Fisher, which allows us to bounce the Prism. So one thing we can do here is play the Springleaf Tramper, the Korsky Fisher, bounce the Prism, and have 1 mana of any color open, which I believe is the thing we do. Doesn't really matter the order. So we can have Ephemerate backup. So they crack their Relic, which makes sense. They find a Flyer, which we are going to try and kill. They replay the Journey, we Ephemerate again. This is fine. Again, we are not getting a lot of value from the Ephemerate, but it's fine. We find a Thoughtcast, so we can play it for 1 mana this time. And then, sorry, okay. So, and then we find Thraben Inspector, which we play, and then we, I don't remember what we cracked. Okay, it doesn't seem. Okay, let's see. So I think we found another Chromatic Star, which we proceed to play and then crack, so we can attack with the Atok. We kill the bird and hit for 5. We are in a very commanding position here. They play the Guardian of the Guildpact, which is a bit of a pain. We don't really have ways of removing this main board, so we are going to hope to ignore it and just hit in the air. We found another land, which is a bit unfortunate. We are a bit flooded, but we have Cave of Temptation next turn to, for example, create a 3/4 Thraben Inspector that can attack. Okay, so they had a very high amount of blasts, I remember this sequence, it was very interesting. So they 2-for-1 themselves to kill the Korsky Fisher, which isn't great for them. They only have one card left in hand, and they use another blast to try and kill the ATOG, or maybe just remove some artifacts. I think that means that the last card in hand is the Monarch, so they are trying to keep the board clear for it, but it's very difficult for them because we are drawing cards and all that. So we played a Traven Inspector and then cracked the clue, found a Prism, which we play. We have another card in hand. So yeah, exactly. This is exactly what happened. They had this in hand, so they wanted to keep the board clear. We can attack, and if they block, we can bolt it. They don't have a strength in the graveyard, and they can cast it, so the only out they have is a bolt, which I believe they have, but we are going to attack anyways. Trading a land for trying to get the Monarchy is good. Okay, they don't have it, so we are the Monarch now, and we draw another card. Sorry. We finish up the killing the Palace Sentinels. They can attack us back, but if they do, then we have items to try to kill them, and they are at very low life. So if they attack here and don't play a creature, it means that they have strands, or they are representing strands, maybe they don't have it. Also, we have to take into account they have a cold neck, so they can gain a bit of life. So what we do here is just attack all, since we can't really block. There is strands for red, which doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion, because we are going to get the Monarchy anyway for Traven Inspector. Here we can crack the cave on an ATOG. I don't remember if we do, or maybe we hope to draw something with the Monarchy. Now we are going to crack it, since we are hellbent, and we draw another Traven, which is great. So right now they find a bird that bounces their artifact and they cantrip it. Well, we are yet to find another, like a Moodrifter or another Thoughtcast. That would be very good. So here they remove our threats, but we can again attack and make them use their Prismatic Strands. But we find them all the mixture. Yeah, this is a mistake we did. I remember this. So what we did was transmute them all the mixture for a fling, thinking we had enough artifacts to fling them, but we can't do it because they Prismatic Strands in response. So this was a misplay. What we should have done is just attack, and then they don't block, we sack a couple of things, and if they play the Prismatic Strands, we should counter it, because you can counter that with the mixture, but we didn't. This was a misplay on our part, and then we thought about it, and the correct play is to counter the Prismatic Strands since they are tapped out. So here also we cracked the clue in response, since we had open mana for Fling, so if we found Fling before transmuting, then we can win the game that way. So now the game, if I recall correctly, that drags a bit, because they know we have a Fling in hand, so they always keep 3 mana open, but eventually we end up winning the game. But anyway, it was a mistake on our part. So here they find a couple of cantrip things, so they can't really tap out, so we are straining their mana in a sense that they can't just sit there and do nothing, because if they crack their clue, for example, because we can fling them in response. Here we are figuring out how to tap the mana for the Korsky Fisher. Here, since we have fling, we are going to make them use it, the Prismatic Strands. If they cast it, we can kill them in response. We are going to eat their creatures. We don't really care about this. They need to let that resolve and gives us the Monarchy. So that's a very sweet play. We found a way of removing their board and playing Korsky Fisher. This is the sense of false tempo this deck creates, which you can just have the fling in hand and not use it, and anyway you are getting advantage. Here we play Train Inspector and pass the turn before cracking the clue, since we can find something like a model the mixture and we want to be able to play it. Here they play another Guardian, which is a pain because we can't really attack with ATOG, but we can attack in the air, so that's good. Since we can't attack with ATOG, it doesn't make sense to keep a lot of artifacts open. We find Korsky Fisher, which bounces our Thraben and draws another card. So basically we are doing what Boros does, but with a combo backup. Here I don't remember if we use the ephemerate, it looks like we do, and in the rebound we draw another card with Thraben Spectre. So that's awesome. Here we draw a crap load of cards, we remove their flyer and hit in the air. Again, they can't really do anything about that. We could have played the Muldrifter, but there is no need for that. We can hit for 4 in the air and fling a Korsky Fisher with if we need to. So here we cast the Muldrifter and the Korsky Fisher, I believe. Also in Thraben because we want flyers to close the game. So here they are just cantripping, but they need to find several things to not die. So this game was a very long battle that we didn't need to have. So we can just attack with everything. If they try and cast Prismatic Strands, we fling them in response. So here we use the fling and game. So yeah, we played it a bit loosely, but that was the match. Let's go to the second game and see how we sideboard. So we didn't bring Gorilla Shaman in, which is interesting. We removed Fling and Models because they have Prismatic Strands, so we didn't want it to have Fling in our hand. In the first game, for example, it gave us the game, but I think we win the game not by flinging 8 outs, but by hitting in the air and drawing more cards on them. So the only cards we bring in were the Blue Blast for the Gorilla Shamans, and we brought this down. So we're basically the same deck with some counter spells for their Shamans. So here we keep a very good hand, I believe. This is turn 1 Thraben, turn 2 Spring with Ram Thraben, hold up Ephemerate. This is even better because we can play the Korsky Fisher on turn 2 if we want to, and the Spring with Ram if we want to too. So here they bought the Thraben, which is, I believe is sometimes correct because we play Spring with Ram, so it's basically a mana for us. Maybe also they are trying to keep the board clean because they have like the Monarch in their hand and they want to be able to play it. So here they cantrip with their flyer. We don't have a removal for it, but we have Muldrifter Ephemerate, which we proceed to do since they are tapped out. And that basically gives us the game because we have so many cards. They are trying to find some removal for the Muldrifter. They didn't find it, so they basically lost the game now. They will try to raise us with birds, but we are going to draw so many cards that it doesn't really matter. So yeah, we find removal, we find Itox, we find card draw, we find more flyers, so this game is pretty much over. That's the strength of Muldrifter Family. They are cantripping and doing the board stuff and bouncing lands and everything, but we are so far ahead right now. We have so many more things than them. So here we tap, this is interesting, we tap the Multi-Drifter up. I don't remember exactly why. Maybe because we were sure we weren't attacking with it. Here we sack the Chromatic Star for the 8 again to attack through them. Maybe we are going to use the Bolt on the Core Skyfisher since it's the only creature that can stop our Multi-Drifter. Then the other creatures we can just trade it with Multi-Drifter and such. We only have so many removals for their deck, so we try to be mindful of removing the creatures we have problems with. So here we draw another card, we bolt the bird, we swing for a lot, and we have Ephemerate backup. So they tap out here, but we probably are going to Ephemerate again. So we draw a couple of cards, and we swing for 2 only, because they have a Guardian. So since we don't have any more flings, this is basically a standstill where they can't attack us because we can attack them on the crackback. If we have removal, we kill them. So that's basically what's happening here. We are going to play Core Skyfisher and some prisons and such. We are just trying to make our land drops now. We play Thraben again because we are creating a lot of clues. This provides a lot of artifacts for Aether. So here they play again the Core Skyfisher country thing, but we are doing that much better. We are a lot of cards ahead of them. So here we just crack a clue, we don't care. Yeah. So now we can play like Multi-Drifters and such, discard a couple of lands to hand size. Here they bolt our dude, which is fine. We play another ATOG, which is great because we can start attacking with both and sack some clues to get in and, for example, kill their Travens or something. So we are a bit floated here. We have a lot of lands, but we also have Multi-Drifter and like 500 clues, so we're fine. Their Bolter guy, they are just trying not to die here, but we have so many things to do. So here we crack the star for damage, we bolt the bird. They didn't counter it, so they probably don't have strands. We play more crap. We are getting very low on clock, so we need to be mindful of that and try to close the game as soon as possible. So we pass with Bolt and Ephemerate up. And Oblivion Ring is going to try and kill our bird, which we are going to Ephemerate and bounce a Prophetic Prism. They try and draw a card. They don't find anything. So here we are going to Ephemerate again the Drifter probably. We go for the Thraben because we want to hit them in the air because we have so many cards. We need to start clocking them because we are very low on clock. Pun intended. So here we crack a couple of clues to clear their board, and since we are so far ahead we can take that and make those plays. So here we don't play the Multi-Drifter, which I believe it's kind of incorrect. They play the Parasentinels, but we have Flyers and ADOS and such, so we are going to crack some clues. If we find the Galvanic Blast, we can kill them. So here we find the Galvanic Blast. We crack the... okay, so this is interesting. We crack the cave for the Core Skyfisher so we can clock them faster. They didn't kill it in response, so their last hand may be Prismatic Strands. So we're going to play around that by attacking first, and if they are going to double block the ATOX, when they do, we can try and Galvanic Blast them in the face and make them go very low on health. This is what happens. So this is the correct way of playing against Prismatic Strands. You want them to cast them, and then in response to it, you just fold their face a couple of times. and they are obliged. They have to flash that back, so they do. They don't have enough blockers, so they need another prismatic strand to not die. I believe they prismatic strands for red, for white instead of red. They are blowing up our lands, but we don't really care. We have flyers, so we are trying to find some lands and just attack with everything. So they need to block all the Aatrox, otherwise they are dead. So they flashback strands, that's fine for us. We just pass the turn. They cycle, and pass the turn. Then they are trying to see if we time out, I believe. They don't have many outs. Yeah, so I believe they were trying to time us out by just playing stuff and seeing if we take like 2 minutes to decide whether we do something or not. I don't know. So basically, if they had another prismatic strands, we could just play the land, cast Mood Drifter, and pass the turn. So we are going to have 3 colors the next turn, so they weren't able to keep up with that. So yeah, that was 2-0 in the first round. Let's go to round 2.